Well, tonight, or this morning, we're very fortunate to have Phil Butcher from the Open University as our guest speaker. Phil is well known around the world for his work that he's been doing on e-assessment, and I've actually visited the Open University a couple of times and visited Phil over there. And I was particularly impressed with the work that the Open University has been doing in Moodle, which is a thing that Phil's going to talk about in this session, but also all the other work that the Open University is doing in terms of making online education accessible to a wide audience. It's always very useful to see the approaches that different institutions take in terms of that wider participation in an online educational environment. So Phil is going to be talking about OpenLearn, and will be telling us about the new Moodle 2.1 quiz. So Phil, I'm going to hand over to you. Okay, Phil, if you're talking, yes, you need to make sure you press the talk button.
I'm just trying to find the first slide.
It's up now.
Right, good morning all. I hope you can hear me and you can see the slide. Perhaps a tick in the box if you can.
Well, there's at least two of us, Phil.
Okay, so I'm getting through to quite a few of you. That's good. How do we clear the boxes, Jeff?
Sorry, you just click it again.
Right, so let's start with a few questions. So could I ask how many of you use Moodle? Thank you. Could you clear the boxes? And now could you indicate whether any of you have started using Moodle 2.1? And a few have, but the majority haven't, which is round about where we are at the university. I think we're about to start using Moodle 2.1 this week or next live with our students. So I'm going to tell you what we've been doing to the quiz over the last year and a half, and I hope you find it interesting. By all means, interrupt either down in the chat box or by indicating that you'd like to speak. So let's progress. The OU got involved in Moodle in 2005. The university took a long time, a year and a half or more, looking at all the VLEs that are available at that time, and came to the view that for a major online university like ourselves, we wanted more than what the commercial providers were able to give us. And after much thinking, the university decided to go with Moodle. And the first time I think I saw it, I think it was Moodle 1.5. And it was clearly aimed at something, at some institutions other than us. It was all about testing. There was very little feedback. If you got a numeric question wrong, as far as I could see, there was no way you could tell the student what the right answer was. That's no good if we're doing all of our stuff online remotely and we're wanting the student to have a conversation with a an interactive system. So we started playing about with Moodle 1.5. We've added a huge amount to it. If you use the Moodle gradebook, well, we paid for that conversion. If you use the Moodle reports, well, they contain statistics from this university. If you use the Moodle navigation that's new in Moodle 2, well, I designed that in my garage. And Tim and Co have implemented all these things over the last 5 years. And basically what we're trying to do is turn this system from a testing system into something that can be used as well for learning. And from where we sit in Milton Keynes and our students around the world, if you are one of our students, then you are, of course, you have to write essays, you have to be assessed on what you're doing. And our tutors are also assessed. So you have a tutor, you write your essay, you send it to your tutor, and the tutor is assessed on the quality of the feedback they give to you on what you have written, and how they try and encourage you to learn more and what they suggest you do. And we felt that if we were doing that with humans using essays, then the least the computer should do is try and comment on the students' answers, give them immediate feedback as to whether they're right or wrong, and try and persuade them to go and learn more if they've got it wrong. And so that immediately follows that not only are you telling them they've got it wrong, but you're going to give them another try. So we were into give the students some immediate feedback and then give them another try. We have always been of the view that these computers that we have these days are wonderful machines. And the concept that we're only going to do multiple choice on them is just foreign to us. The OU's been doing things other than multiple choice for well over 30 years online. And so we want to support anything the computer will do. So that's audio, video, interactions, animations, you name it, involvement in simulations, all within an assessment system. And of course, we're the Open University, we're open 24/7, 365 days a year around the world. And so this system basically has to do everything behind the scenes so that once you answer the question, it knows about it and it keeps it. So those are our 4 guiding principles that we've had all this time. And another thing I'd like to just emphasize, I hope I don't have to say that this is just common sense, but clearly what we're doing is guided by what our students tell us. So we're trying to make it better and we're not trying to be boring. So here's a typical comment from an OU student. It's a good learning tool. If you get the answer wrong, it doesn't give you the answer right away, but gently coaches you till you get it right yourself. Now you have to understand that the OU's, all its teaching materials are available. We've got text left, right and center. Most of these are in ebook format these days. So in the middle of a quiz, saying to somebody, perhaps you'd better go and read chapter 5, section 6 is not a big deal. They can go and find it, they can look at it, they can study it, and then they can come back and have another go at the question. And just one more, we used to have, and we still have, lots of written material in which there were questions. And the idea was the student read a bit and then tried to answer a question. But all the answers to the questions were at the back. And of course, students say, oh, of course I can do that. And they just look at the answer And when you put the computer in the way, they can't do that. They have to prove they know it. And time and again, of course, they don't. And so this is a really interactive learning aid. So this, the slide I hope you can see now is something from probably 2007. It's a system. It's a system we have called OpenMark, and on the left you can see this student has answered a couple of the questions and not the third, and on the right the feedback is telling them that they're correct for two of the reasons, and there's a hint for the third, and there's a reference to the book so they can go away and study it before trying again. So this is where we really were. We wanted sufficient feedback often enough. Well, often enough means as soon as you press check, and in enough detail. That tends to come down to how experienced the academic is in teaching this material and how long they've spent trying to correct student answers so they know what to do. Feedback is provided quickly enough. Well, we're looking for under a second to be useful for students. That's much different to sending comments on an essay, of course, which take days to get through, and then of course they don't have to write another essay for another month. Feedback is received by students. That means that they actually pay attention to it and do something with it. And our idea is if they've got it wrong and we can direct them somewhere and there's still marks to be had, then they're very likely to go and read more of the materials and come back and try again. And finally, that they act on it. Obviously, we want them to improve their learning. We want them to improve their work. We want to improve our own retention triggers. And so all of this is aimed at trying to persuade the students to pay due attention and go and read their materials, basically, and have another go. Are we okay so far? It's all very quiet down the bottom.
Yes, Phil, all fine and all interesting.
Right, good. So just to go through this again, I was going to demonstrate all this live, but when Matthew and I tried it a fortnight ago, it didn't work as well as I hoped. So I'm just giving us a slideshow now, but right at the very end, I'll give you a couple of links where you can go and try things yourself. It will work there and then. I want you to see that we do a lot more than just support multiple choice. So all of our demonstrations tend to show that. And Design for Anywhere, Anytime Use, wherever you are in the world, you should be able to get to our website and have a go. Pauses, by the way, are just when I'm changing slides and waiting for it to appear here. Okay, well, everything that I've described so far, we've had at the OU since 2002. The system we designed way back then is now called OpenMark. There is a URL there. You can go and try examples. And I think I wrote those examples back in 2006. I don't think I've changed them since. We've been developing things offline since 1996. So the beginnings of OpenMark actually start on CD-ROMs for our Science Foundation course back in 1996. So you will find if you were to study one of our courses, if you are to study our current Science Foundation course, I think there are some questions in it that have now been in use for 15 years in various formats. And here's a slide from OpenMark. We were messing about in 2007 to 2009. I say messing about, it was serious stuff. We were looking at the capabilities of linguistic analysis of student responses. And here is a question that we are accepting. Anything you like to type that's right, and we try and match it. And if you get it wrong, you don't get any marks. And we had a linguistic system behind this, and in the end, after much analysis, we found we could do just as well with the response matching in OpenMark. And by just as well, I mean, 97, 90%, 8% accurate on the marking, and totally consistent. Whereas if you get a group of tutors, they are totally inconsistent, and even if you give them a marking scheme, they will interpret that marking scheme in different ways, particularly if a student enters an answer that is both right and wrong. A human will make a decision, and the human decisions will change between tutors. Some tutors will give it full marks, some tutors will give it no marks. The one thing you can do with a computer is insist on consistency, and so you decide which way you're going to go, and that's what it marks. So typically the computer is as good as tutors at marking accurately. So how did we get into the Moodle quiz? Here's the timeline. In October 2005, the OU decided to use Moodle as our VLE, and Martin Dogiamas came across to Milton Keynes in late 2005 and gave a presentation to the university, a packed lecture hall, as I recall. And while he was over, Neil Slater, who was the VLE director at the time, and myself, persuaded Martin that seeing as we'd done OpenMark, then we might be a reasonable organization to look after the Moodle quiz for him. And we were able to persuade him by one means or another. And in 2006, we needed, clearly, having persuaded Martin, we needed somebody to do it. And Tim Hunt from the OU, who is listening this morning, took on the role of the global quiz maintainer. And he and I have been working almost incessantly on this for 5 years or more. So what you see in the Moodle 2.1 quiz is based upon 15 years of us developing and using OpenMark. So that's me working with the academics, seeing what the students reply, improving that system. Tim's 5 years experience in maintaining Moodle 1.5 onwards, and then he and I both persuading the Open University that it was time we invested serious money in getting the quiz sorted out and persuading the Open University to let Tim rewrite it, and he spent over 1 year rewriting the whole of the Moodle quiz. So here's what it looks like if you go and get Moodle 2.1. What's this one? This is, this is one of our drag and drop questions, so you might not have this. We'll make this available. I think our intention is, once we've got everything settled, we've released the new Moodle quiz in Moodle 2.1. We are currently developing 8 or 9 new question types. I'll show you some of them shortly. And we are hoping to release those alongside Moodle 2.2 which is late this year. We've got about 5 or 6 of them ready and tested, ready to go. We've still got a couple that are outstanding. So this is what Moodle looks like at the OU when I recorded it, I think last week. On the left is the navigation panel. So this particular quiz has got 7 questions. In the middle is the status panel. Question 4 tells you we've not completed this one, number of marks. And on the right there's a question. This is a drag and drop question. I'm told I've had one go. I'm told I have it partially correct. And if I want to find out what I've got wrong, there's a reference, and then it invites me to try again. So that's how Moodle 2.1 looks at the OU this week. And here are some of the things behind it. So the one I showed you, you get to have a go at the question. If you get it wrong, you saw it said try again. You get another go. So that one's the second one in the list. That's called interactive with multiple tries. And basically that's what we've taken from OpenMark and built into Moodle. The original Moodle, I called it Moodle Classic, allows you to answer all the questions and then press submit at the end. You could give the student immediate feedback, or you could delay it until after the closing date. That's called deferred feedback. And yes, that's still all there. Immediate feedback is from OpenMark without the multiple tries. Confidence-based marking comes from University College London. They use it a lot with their medics. And the idea is that you don't want a medic who's super confident and making the wrong choices. So heavy penalties for being very confident but getting it wrong. Adaptive, I've never really got my head around. Manual marking is the marking essay. And so that's all in Moodle 2.1.
Actually, Phil, I just wondered at this stage whether anyone wanted to make any comments about the question types. So I just wondered whether we give a chance for people to put up their hand if they want to make a comment, or if not, then that's fine. But I just wondered whether anyone wanted to say anything about those question types. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone's putting up their hand at the moment. Well, if you don't mind, I was going to ask a question actually about the confidence-based marketing. That's the stuff Tony's been doing there. And I found it really interesting. And what I wondered was, does anyone, I know they've been using it a lot at UCL, I wondered what it done in sort of a variety of disciplines, so that someone has actually looked at what difference it makes in terms of the students' choices if it's actually used on a fairly large scale.
I don't know the answer I know it's used on a large scale at UCL, and I know the Open University experimented with exactly this back in 1979. You can see there's a lot of space for people to do appropriate educational analysis. And I know that our Faculty of Health and Social Care are interested in doing it, but it's only become available to, as I say, to our own staff this week. And so it will take us some time to devise things that we might try.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So if there's no other comments from other people, no other things you want to ask a question about, then we'll keep going.
Okay, I've indicated that we are doing some new things and we're hoping to release them alongside Moodle 2.2. It dawned on me Moodle 2.2 is going to be out in December, which probably means our stuff has got to be finished a month earlier than that. Some of them will be, and some of them won't. which is why I've added Moodle 2.3 on there. So let me just take you through some of the things we've done. All of them I've illustrated on the website that I'll give you at the end. So these are still stills that are coming up. So first of all, we've done some new drag and drops. So you can drag and drop words onto images. You can also drag and drop images onto images. The second one I'll show here is a pattern match. And I don't know if I've done the new numeric ones. Let's see what I've put in here so far. Okay, so this is labeling a diagram. It's running in interactive mode, so you can have multiple tries. Fairly obviously, you've got text boxes, and you can drag them onto the diagram. You can see that we've allowed you to have one new line in there. The text boxes can also have subscript, superscript, a little formatting, but not much. So we can get chemical symbols and things in there. And it marks it just by seeing how many you've got right, how many you've got wrong. There's a variant on this where you can drag images onto images as well. So you can upload small images which can be dragged onto a larger image. Here's the new pattern match. Pattern match question is something I've been using myself for well over 30 years, and I've improved it as the years have gone by. So it's a system that allows you to, well, it's a sophisticated response matching algorithm, frankly. And we put it into Moodle. It's taken us about 4 months to get it right. There it is. It's working for us, and we hope it will enable people to go a lot further than what the short answer question type enables at the moment. So this is one that I showed earlier. We've had thousands of students go through this. We've analysed all of their answers offline, and we've worked on sorting out the response matching. The response matching algorithm runs to probably 30 different responses, and it achieves 97, 98% accuracy. And remember, our students come from all walks of life. They're not all sitting in the same lecture listening to the same lecturer. And really, it's quite surprising how accurate you can be with what does to appear to be an open, a very open question. These are the question types that we have already developed and have currently sitting in Milton Keynes, or we are currently doing. So I've just shown you dropping words onto images. We're doing images onto images, and the pattern match I've just shown you. We've got a couple of variable numerics. So these are questions which actually will use variables. I've always been baffled by how assessment systems which run by computers can't use variables. So these will use variables. They will allow scientific input. They will allow specification of how many significant figures. They will check whether you've rounded it the wrong way, the right way. Placing a marker onto images is currently in development. Missing word is just a variant on dragging words into sentences. When you've got so many words on the screen, there's no room for the drag box. So go to our languages faculty, and they tend to want paragraphs of text which soon fill the screen, and you can't drag markers into place, you can't drag words into place. So we created a missing word version with drop-down boxes. I'm a chemist. I found a Java molecular editor online in 1999. It's fantastic. The sorts of things you can do with chemistry. We've been using the Java molecular editor now for over 10 years, and it struck me that once we got the pattern match, we could just hook the JME into it to enable easy checking of the student's answers. So that's one where I wanted also, the JME is also in Java, so I wanted to be able to hook Moodle into other things. So we've got that one still to do. We're going to have an oral question, which is the equivalent of the essay question, except students speak. So that one's still to be developed, and we're hoping to have all these by the end of this year. One thing I do want to stress is we use this stuff. All of this stuff is massive from the OU. It continues to grow. We only really started keeping records in September '06, which is why you see that's where the graph started. We went online in 2002. And as I say, we were offline prior to that and asking students what they thought of it by questionnaires. But this is the change that we've seen since we went online. Essentially, the first 2 years were just OpenMark. We were actually starting to push OpenMark a bit more. We didn't start using Moodle in any anger until about September, about 2008, when we felt we've got enough of it there. And you can see how the uses have increased. And behind the scenes, I can report that we're getting currently, just to give you a feel for it, we have 30 courses in science doing online assessment, ICMAs, interactive computer mark assessment. We have 30 courses in science. We have 2 in maths. That's all, 2. So a maths faculty have only just woken up to this. So you can expect those numbers to go up. And our languages courses are just about to rewrite their beginners courses in French, and German, and Spanish, and there are oodles of online assessments going to be done alongside those. So I'm expecting those numbers to go even higher in years to come. And finally, I didn't want to spend all my time talking. Here are a couple of links. We have, first of all, OpenMark examples. That website's been there since 2006. I've hardly gone back to it because we've been too busy doing Moodle, but that's basically where we've been coming from. Where we have reached, the lab space site, that's on our OpenLearn system. On there, I've put 2 short videos that people can go and watch and see what we're doing and what's coming. Everything that's in Moodle 2.1 is actually interactive on that site as well. So I thought that people might want to go and have a look at those. And I will sit here and try and now read some of the comments that are going by and field any questions that you might have, if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks very much, Phil. That was great. And it's really good that you've left us time for discussion, because I'm sure there's a few things that people would like to say. I notice people have been having lots of conversations in there, but perhaps if people go and have a look at the videos, and if there's any questions that you'd like to ask as well of Phil, or indeed of anyone else who's on, please go ahead and do that. Just remember to click the little hand so that we know what order to pick people in to speak. I suppose, Phil, I'll just ask you just an opening question. Is there something that, are there types of tasks that you think that we will not be able to do on the computer? Because it's one of the questions that obviously people always ask about online assessment, because they try and replicate things they do other ways in the online environment. So in terms of either your own work or in terms of what the Open University does, are there things that you definitely think, well, look, this is just, the computer is not suitable for doing this?
Clearly, there are horses for courses. I would not go and sell this heavily within our philosophy department. Having said that, they do some things online. So I'm quite clear. I mean, the way the university is developed, it's almost all been driven by science, and other faculties have followed behind, some more so than others. I think we can go a fantastic distance in putting really impressive simulations into an assessment system. That is not my major task at the moment. My major task is persuading our academic staff, who are not necessarily computer literate, that here is an interactive system that they can use en masse with their students. And that educating our staff with what they can do already is enormous. Driving the systems even further is a different game, and we're not going to be doing that for a couple of years, I don't think.
Okay, thanks, Phil. I guess the other sort of question probably underlying that is, do you think that online is, actually given just what you said there, does that imply that you're still expecting people to ask the same sorts of questions, but they're just asking them in an online environment to what they could do else in the non-online environment? Or do you think this actually helps us change the actual type of question, or actually change the task that will get students to do?
Oh, it will change the task, but not yet. First of all, we've got to get the academics familiar with what they might do. Once they're familiar with it, then they'll start to do things in different ways. But primarily, our job is to get this out there and well received and well used. I mean, I showed you that we had 570,000 tests run last year. I could not, hand on heart, tell you they were all wonderful, because they weren't. Some of them are fantastic. We've got lots in third level physics. I mean, really using the technology, hard questions that make you think. And some of the others put together by other faculties really are no comment. Somebody wants to speak. Tim.
Hello. Yes, that seems to be working. In terms of being able to ask different types of questions, the best example of that I know is Chris Sanguin from Birmingham, who's another person we're working for doing maths assessment. He's got examples where if you're getting the computer to mark the formula the student types, then you can ask much more open questions. You can say, write an equation with these properties, and the computer can check all those properties you want the example they give to have. And you really would never want to mark that one by hand, because it'd be too much work, but it's not too much work for the computer. So that's the best example I know of being able to ask fundamentally different types of questions once you've got the computer marking it. To go back to Mark's previous point about will computer marked assessment always be able to do everything? I think one interesting thing to compare it with is comparing like going out and playing a game of footy with going to the gym. You know, going to the gym is excellent practice. It can build certain, physical strength, but it won't teach you how to play footy. So I think one way to look at e-assessment that isn't a perfect match, but it's an interesting one to think about, is doing online assessment a bit like providing students with a gym where they can practice certain skills, and it's good for some skills and not for all skills.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. Kate, we'll hand over to you in a minute, but just before we do, Kate, what I might do, if it's okay with everyone, is to put up the survey that we have. So we have a short survey at the end of each of the webinars, and I thought people may end up leaving at different stages while we're having the discussion. So I thought I might just put that up, and if those of you, if all of you wouldn't mind filling that in before you head off, we'd really appreciate that. So I'll just bring that up now. And Kate, I'll hand the mic over to you.
I just wanted to ask a question about the pattern questions and how complex can the answer be in terms of depth of thinking for the algorithm to work and still be accurate? Because the answers that were shown were quite short.
We would recommend that you are only marking one thing at a time. If you've got anything that says that's got two parts to the question, that gets very difficult very quickly. You're right. That question was just looking for a short answer. We're not marking anything. Well, we're suggesting no more than 20 words. The skill is in asking the question. You have to phrase the question correctly. The pattern match behind it is very powerful. And as I say, we looked a long time, spent a couple of years looking at a pattern match system based on linguistic analysis. That got too complex for us to use. It became a matter of trying to work out how the computer was analyzing this answer. The pattern match that we put into Moodle is a lot more straightforward. It's algorithmic. But it did just as well. But you're right, you're not going to be marking essays with it.
No, I was thinking about short questions, but I'm just wondering whether this would suit better things where there's a specific factual or transactional answer like maths or science or medicine, rather than something where it's more about, if it was philosophy, it'd be very difficult, wouldn't it? Or maybe English, literature, or the humanities.
I always like when I talk about this to one of my philosophical friends, I always like his question. He says, well, question I go, is there a God? Is there a God? And how do you mark that? Yeah, no, there's no two ways about it. If there's a right answer, you stand a chance. If it's anything you might take a view on, then it's a different matter entirely, and that's not what you're going to do with this system.
Phil, I wonder whether there's much thought at your end, at the AU, about decision points and about trying to capture decision points that students make, and whether it's possible to do that in an efficient and effective way using algorithms. Because one of the really interesting things, of course, is when you give students a task, is not only the choice they make, but also the thoughts behind that choice. And so often you want to give students, and I mean, I've seen it before with sort of nested multiple choice or selected response questions where, you'll have a sort of a scenario that's given the students, then a whole lot of nested, questions that come underneath that. But I wonder whether there's a more efficient and effective way for us to be able to capture those decision points that students make in the online environment.
One of the we have a shopping list. Tim and I, we always like to know what's coming next. So when the university has some money to spare, we can say, well, we could do this. So we've spent 5 years getting to where we are. We've spent a lot of time developing new question types. And so we went to our academics back in May and we said, what comes next? And top of the list was not new question types, but how to actually put those questions together in some ways that we could make decisions along the way. And it strikes me that what you're just asking there is part of that. We haven't done anything more other than put that at the top of the list because we've been too busy doing the current list. But as soon as we've finished what we're currently doing, maybe November, December of this year, then my job will be to get out to the academics and say, okay, you said you want to do some sort of adaptive testing. What quite are you asking for? And ask me that question again in a year, and I might have some ideas about which way we're going.
Sounds like it's another webinar for next year. Any other questions or comments? Again, Phil, I was just thinking a little bit about online assessment and thinking that we often expect a lot from the systems that we try and build. But I think one of the things that really impresses me about the work that you've done, the work the Open University has done, is it said what's the maximum benefit we can get from our students doing something which is relatively, I'm going to say relatively straightforward. I don't mean to say that what's been done is easy to do, but conceptually it's relatively straightforward, and it's making good use of this sort of relatively accessible things for everyone, which is one of the things I really like about what's been done there, because it isn't necessarily going and saying, well, let's build the sort of systems with all the bells and whistles on it. Let's do something that's going to actually have a big impact on lots and lots of students, but really core stuff that has to be done.
I've tried to do that right from the off. When we started out on the what became OpenMark route, my approach with the Science Foundation course was not to constrain them in any way. Clearly we were using a computer, but I didn't go along and say, you can do this, you can do that, and you can do the other, and that's it. I said, what do you want to do? And I indicated earlier on that the people who were really good from the academic side were those who were, well, the 60-year-olds, the guys who'd done it, and the girls. There's a place in this new online world for the mature teacher who knows how students get things wrong, and better, knows how to do something about it. And so I was very pleased, very privileged really to have, there were three key people, one physicist, one chemist, one earth scientist, who really knew what they were doing and had ideas at the teaching level. No idea how to make it work on a computer, that was my job. But that's where we started way back in '96, and that influenced OpenMark from the off, and that's in turn influenced Moodle now. If there's no more comments, let me just say that the website that I gave on at the end, the lab space site, I do keep it up to date. I will do another short video of the new question types towards the end of November when we've got them all done. Tim will make sure that our new question types are readily available through the appropriate Moodle forums and sites. And my email is on that website. People are willing to send me notes. If it's more technical, then Tim Hunt is the man to talk to.
Okay, just before you go, Phil, I see Rick Canali's put in a question here about, essentially our professional development. So how does the Open University go about supporting staff to use these new question types or quiz types inside the Moodle system?
I spend a lot of time giving workshops. So I'm in the middle of one. They don't last, they're 3 times a couple of hours with some homework in between. I'm in the middle of one now, and the third session is on Friday. So that's with people from our languages faculty. So I run workshops within the university when asked. I'm giving another one the week after next, another two the week after next. I'm busy.
Yes, we can certainly see that, Phil. So are there any other questions from people? Okay, then I might just, on behalf of everyone, Phil, say thank you very much for getting up so early this morning and for giving us this presentation. I think it's been great. And it's also made people, I think, very eager to see what's coming with those next versions as well. I think everyone wants to get on to those new versions as soon as possible. So thank you very much, Phil, and thanks you everyone for participating in the webinar series. So thank you very much. And Matthew, we could probably stop the archiving there.
Thanks for listening.